record this. There we go. All right. As I just said, thank you again for attending our second info session for the Global English Camp 2022. This is our flagship summer program. We actually are going to talk about some additional opportunities we will be having as well. So come on out, Japan. We run the Global English Camp with our partners in Japan, but we also have some new programs on the horizon as well. So I will be talking about those at the end, but you're all here for the Global English Camp. So thank you very much. Again, as I just said before I started recording, I am Matt, the program director. And throughout the info session, as I mentioned, questions are welcome. Try to hold your questions till the slide that says questions now. There's throughout these kind of 6, 7, 8, I guess, sections, there will be a time for questions based on that section. So for example, after I talk about the program, the curriculum, let's say, or let's say the orientation and training, they'll stop for questions and just ask anything on that section. That way we don't get ahead of ourselves, because I know there's going to be tons of questions on logistics or subsidies, things like that. So there'll be sections for each questions. But again, we only have, 38 of us here. So this should be nice and intimate. So hopefully I'll do my best answering since you just have me today. Okay, so let's do a quick introduction. We're gonna play this video and then we'll get into it. Just if you've already seen it, get some water, get some tea, but I like to play this to show everyone the camp. Oh, and I've got to share sound. Don't have my staff here to remind me to do that. All right, here we go. Or not. Kind of gets a little funky here. Thank you for bearing with me. All right. Thank you guys. This is a couple-minute video.
Global English Camp is a program dedicated to the importance of gaining an unparalleled life opportunity via cross-cultural education. Through an intensive weekly program focused not only on language skills, but also relevant global issues, university students and recent graduates from around the world facilitate the improvement of expressing opinions in English and impact students' discovery of their individual life missions.
My favorite part is the mutual exchange of learning and ideas and cultures. It's very much a shared back and forth between the mentors and the students.
It's really inspiring to see the students grow in confidence. By the end of the camp, they started defining more of what they wanted to do and what their future goals were. They're all brave enough and willing to share their life mission with the entire class. I've heard so many stories where the students really want to study abroad or learn English better as a result of this English camp.
Above everything, there's a massive energy to everyone involved. It makes the whole week so fun.
It's really, really amazing watching how they grow and develop over just 5 days.
During the 5-week program, interns gain more than a stimulating teaching experience. They also gain new perspectives, knowledge, and friendships from this unforgettable summer program.
I think Japanese education puts much emphasis on just studying for entrance exam, but these programs help students think about their life mission through listening to interns' presentation. Our interns here have a strong life mission and desire to learn more, so students is also impacted.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. I just like to play it, even though it's on our website, because I think the interns do a much better job of sharing why it's a special program than me. But I will say, in my experiences, the number one thing I tell people, they ask me, what surprised you the most about this program? A quick background, one of my other jobs, I taught junior high world history for a couple years, full-time teacher with 200 students for a year here in Los Angeles. And at the end of the year, I questioned, did I have an impact on my students? And many of you who have teaching experience are probably thinking the same thing, whether it's tutoring, just helping someone out, or teaching a class. and you question that, but that's what teaching is about, is having that impact, having that fulfillment, that satisfaction. I will tell you, the first week I did English camp, I was questioning, 5 days. You only spend 5 days with each of your students. How much of an impact can you have? Not just on their English skills, but in general. And on the 5th day, which I'll talk about what happens then later, you notice tangibly the impact you have. You realize that, how much you affected these students, and so it really is fulfilling, really is special, and that's what we hope everyone experiences on this program. So we are Come On Out, and we have the Global English Camp, which we're talking about today, but we've got a couple other programs in Japan and beyond that I will talk about at the end of this presentation. So look out for that, not just in the summer, in the spring. We've started to dip into virtual programs as well. We'll talk about more of that later. But the main goal here is developing self-confidence. You're not going to expand their English vocabulary in just a week. You want to help them better express themselves or feel more confident expressing themselves in English. So we call it more of a facilitation of conversation than traditional teaching. We call our interns mentors and coaches, not teachers. And that's because you also help students find their life missions. You help them grow. How do they want to contribute to the world? It's as much about that as it is about practicing and having fun in English. So that is the Global English Camp. And the Global English Camp dates are not going to be on this slide, but for those of you listening can write these down as tentative. It will be roughly July 15th through August 26th. July 15th, I'll write it, through August 26th in the chat, actually. And the reason we don't know is the Japanese school system kind of waits to tell us, our partners actually in Japan, when the summer break is. And we have a limited time for their summer breaks. It's usually 4 weeks per school. So we have to really plan it out, but that's probably the dates. And if we have we will have 200 interns in Japan, knock on wood, if it's in Japan. I'll talk about that in a second, but 200 interns normally. And we divide that into 100 and 100, 2 cohorts. The first cohort will arrive July 15th and leave August 19th. So that's 5 weeks. The second cohort would come July 22nd and leave August 26th. So it's a 5-week program, and 1 of those weeks is training and 4 of those weeks is teaching. And you will have a chance to interact with both cohorts as classes inevitably overlap, but that's how we structure it. And that's because the first week and the last week of the program have significantly less students. Usually we have 1,000 to 2,000 per week, and in the first and last week, because not many schools are in summer, we have a lot less. So that's what we do. That the other benefit is the first week of teaching, you're going to teach with a partner. Very, very much likely, 95% chance. We only have some people teach alone, and we usually give that to people who are returning. So that's the program dates. I know a lot of people ask about that. That's tentative, and if you have more questions about that, you can save for a question time. And then the students you will be teaching, 2 to 6 students per group. You can see here one of our staff now, actually Robert, at a table giving his presentation about his college to 4 students. Typically, it's going to be 2 to 6 students per group. You'll be in a classroom with other interns in their group. So there's a lot of group activities with just your group and a lot of whole classroom activities. And you will have 1 group per week. So you will have 4 different sets of students throughout the summer. And these students will vary in English skill level. They've been learning English academically their whole lives, but as a generalization, a lot of Japanese English classes tend to focus on reading and writing and not speaking. And this is actually why our sponsor created this program. They wanted to have speaking as the forefront. So you will have a mix of, maybe 1 week in a beginning group, and 1 week you could have a group as advanced as me or you and I in English. And then the grades are junior high to university. However, 95% of your students will be in high school. So for US, that's 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I think that's the same in the UK, grades 10, 11, 12. That will be the majority of our students. Okay. And the unpaid internship aspect versus paid, we will talk about that in a bit as well during our money section. But this past summer, we did not go to Japan, which is probably pretty obvious for those of you who didn't know. but we did have a massive online program, our first that was this big with 2,000 students. So not as big as our in-person, but spanning 20, actually 10 Zoom homerooms per week with hundreds in each Zoom rooms. It was a really fantastic program. We were nervous, but it worked out really well, and the students were just as satisfied, and the interns enjoyed it a lot too. Now we did have to stay up at weird hours. The program was 10 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday in Japan, which in the UK is 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. Or if you're in the West Coast like me, that's 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. So it was a little strange with the hours, but we're very proud of our coaches and our returning leaders. And we had a fantastic program. So this may happen in 2022, but as of right now, we're following closely with kind of the government restrictions for travel and are talking to our sponsors in Japan. We are hoping that it will open up as the world slowly opens up for the summer program to be in person. However, we'll keep everyone updated. This is a possibility to do our remote program again, and it was really great. And in the remote program, you are paid for your hours. Okay. So, and there's the little disclaimer. And yeah, so this is Come On Out quickly. Come On Out Japan, that's our programs in Japan, but we also teach English traditionally one-on-one online. Come On Out English, we're always looking for teachers for those of you who are interested. That is a paid position, but we do require a TEFL certificate for that. But for the Come On Out Japan program, the one that you guys are all at this info session right now for Global English Camp, this is a question we always get. You do not need a TEFL. It is not required. The reason we encourage it, partially because we offer our own TEFL program, is because it kind of demonstrates that you want to be an English teacher. And not everyone wants to be, so it's totally fine. However, it does, provide a resume booster otherwise. And then it's a pretty detailed, thorough course that you go through that kind of prepares you to be a great English teacher online and in person. So that's why we encourage it, but it is by no means a requirement. And I would say only about 20% of our interns last summer had the TEFL. So hopefully that answers all your guys' questions on the TEFL. Great thing to have. I recommend it, especially if you're going to teach it. It helps you get jobs. It helps you raise your pay in other jobs. But for our Global English Camp program, we do not require it, just encouraged. So feel free to shoot me any other questions on that when we get to the slide. And then we also run some environmental programs in the US, and we're hoping to run an environmental camp in Japan sometime soon. We're very nature-oriented folks here. Toshin High School is our partner. They supply all the students in Japan. They are a very well-known private education company. They are a cram school, or a juku as they're called in Japan. And they are definitely at the forefront of English education, which is why this program is pretty unique and highly regarded in Japan. If you go to a baseball game, I'm a big Japanese baseball fan, in Tokyo, you can see their advertisement on the left field wall. So they're pretty well known, and they're great to work with. And as an intern, you will work with their staff as well. And then Come On Up is our partners that run the administrative stuff in Japan. They'll run all the housing. They will run your subsidies, getting your subsidies every week, which we'll talk about soon. And they also handle the Japanese classes we offer that's provided to you guys, and cultural activities as well. So yeah, that's who we work with. And throughout the slides, we've got these testimonials. Of course, it's great to have all of our interns say great stuff for us, but it's also nice that we have interns from all over. So people always ask, do I have to go to a certain university? Do I have to study a certain thing? Nope. We're looking for a wide variety of people. And I'll get into some application tips at the end of the info session otherwise. But we are not looking only for English teachers, and we're not looking for only Japanese majors. In fact, Japanese is not required. And I would say only about 20% of our interns have even taken beginning Japanese. So of course we love that, and we want people to practice the language, but it's not allowed in the classrooms. It's English only, so it is not needed. So hopefully that covered up a couple other questions. I've kind of got my list here. I've written down old school from your guys' questions. All right, this is the last slide before we have our first question, so you can feel free to prepare in the chat or do the Zoom raise hand feature. But when you arrive to Japan, once you're accepted, we have a pretty extensive onboarding process. I'll talk about the airfare and stuff like that later. But once we get you to Japan, everyone meets in Tokyo. We take over basically a big hostel there, right in Asakusa, the heart of, cultural heart of Tokyo, really. And we have a pretty chill orientation. We basically want people to take those 2 days to get over their jet lag, if that's possible. We also have a welcome dinner. We give you guys some subsidies to go and do some fun cultural activities. We lead optional cultural activities. And we have disaster training, which is required if you're doing an educational program like this in Japan, just, of course, to prepare for earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. And it's just a fun weekend to get to know everyone and yeah, legitimately get some rest before we start training on Monday. So training is in Tokyo, and it is 4 days long, it's Monday through Friday, but I'll explain what I mean in a second. And this is another reason we don't require TEFL and don't require everyone to be teachers. We have a really thorough training. We go through the textbook page 1 to the end. We go over classroom strategies. We go over cultural things too, living in Japan. We go over all the administrative stuff that are necessary to your insurance, health insurance. We go over everything. We want to make sure everyone's super comfortable. It is a long time, 4 days, but it's also the only time that your entire cohort is in the Tokyo headquarters together, which is really fun. So everyone's meeting each other, getting excited. And after training, we have unofficial events. So I think it's actually a really, really fun week. And then on Friday of training, it's optional, but all provided to you. We head out to Hakone. I don't know if anyone has been to Hakone or anywhere near Mount Fuji, but it's a beautiful natural area. We have these cabins we rent. At least we've done it in the past. Again, this is all COVID pending, but we have these great cabins, and we just celebrate that you guys are in Japan and all trained and ready to go for your first week of teaching. It's really, really a fun weekend, and we like to kind of reward everyone for finishing training, getting ready to teach, and get everyone excited for the first week of teaching, which is really, really fun. So that is orientation and training. And I think it's time for questions after this slide. So if anyone wants to start typing in any or raise your hand so far. So coming up, those are some pictures from training. I should have said, hey, look at this. And welcome dinner, things like that. Super fun weekend and week. So any questions so far? So we're coming up with the actual camp, the 5 days of the camp, and as well as logistics and subsidies, which is going to probably have a lot of questions. Yeah, so Megan, yeah, I'll answer the funding transportation in the logistics subsidies. Thank you. I know that's really important. That's why I'm kind of rambling and or rather not stopping for breath as I explain this stuff, so we make sure we have enough time for that. Any questions on training or who we are so far? I think we're okay. I'm either doing a great job or it's okay. So we got, Madeline. So day of training, great question. So we get to, everyone's in Tokyo for the first week. We meet in Shinjuku. If anyone knows Tokyo, Shinjuku is basically the downtown. It's a great spot, a lot of great food. So lunchtime during training is amazing options. We arrive at 10 a.m. and we go till about 4. And we are all in a big classroom together. And it's a mix of presentations. I might be up there giving a presentation on health insurance and what to do if you're sick and how to do things, because that's very important, of course. Someone else might be up there explaining the subsidy process, which I'll explain in a bit, and how you get, how we get our money out every week that we give you guys the subsidies. Or someone's up there explaining how to be the best teacher you can be in the classroom. So it's presentation based from our staff, Japanese and myself, and coming out, as well as our leaders, our returning interns. So every year we have a group of people that come back and do the program again, and they act as liaisons with us. And they are experienced teachers. They know what works and what doesn't in their year, so they explain. And then we'll break out into group sessions, do some practice, do some role play, work with the textbook, discuss amongst groups, and that's essentially what it looks like. Madeline, hopefully that answered. And then on Friday, we all arrive in Tokyo for a quick presentation. Then we hop on a train to Hakone. Sam, hire teachers who have, you're welcome, Madeline. And I should say, after training ends, we will have one official event during the training week before the retreat in Hakone, but we also have a lot of unofficial stuff. So you're going to be placed, I didn't mention this, you'll be placed in a group of about 15 interns. That's your primary mini cohort with a leader, a returning intern, or two rather. And we encourage that week to have a lot of bonding events. So there's going to be tons of unofficial stuff going on. I say unofficial just because it's do whatever you want. And our team plans, I'm going to this restaurant. I got 10 spots. You want to join Matt, or Jake's going this way. So that as well. Okay. Teachers who have TEFL, a different certificate like CELTA, yeah, we would consider that, Sam. And if you're applying for this program and you have any of these certificates, please attach them. There's a space for that in the application. Katie, specific contact, yes. So everyone will have my number in line, as well as our coming out staff, as well as your leaders who are our liaisons. So they are the first point of contact to direct you in the right person to contact, but we also have the emergency Japanese contacts. So if you really need a native Japanese speaker for something, like if you're going to the doctor, there are a bunch of English speaking doctors in Tokyo, but if you're in a more rural area, that might not be the case. So Katie, we have this huge onboarding document with all the right contacts for the right times. Great question. Marlena, on that. Oh, right. Thank you for asking that, Marlena. With the two cohorts coming early or coming later, the staggered by a week, you indicate not on your application, but once you're accepted, which one you prefer and why. Why we ask the why is because there are a lot of schools that actually start like end of August. And so those folks get priority to go on the earlier one because they legitimately have to get back to school or work. But otherwise we do our very best to get everyone their preference. It's just in the case when we really need to fill one group, we have to ask. Yep, you're welcome. And Jocelyn, Japanese isn't available for advanced Japanese. Yep, I'll talk about that. We have usually 4 levels, and they are after school. And the advanced Japanese class, I'm not advanced, so I can't really speak to it, but I've heard it's super fun because a lot of conversation based. And that one, you meet a lot of local Japanese folks, university students that come by for that class and want to take people out and like really work on your conversation rather than being a more traditional lecture-based class. And another great question I'll answer before moving on. Do you have to be a student yourself to apply? No. In fact, the requirement are 18 years of age, native level English speaker, not native English, but native level English. So you don't have to be a native English speaker, and good standing at your university or have graduated from a university. So we have a lot of undergrads, grads, PhD students, and recent grads, anywhere from 18 to low 30s. Actually, even older than that. We want a diverse group of interns for the students to have, be able to talk about different life experiences, different majors, interests, etc. And how much free time do interns have, Jocelyn? That is a fantastic question. And weekends are free, besides if you have to travel to a venue. I'll talk about that in a second. Evenings are free after 5, after your school day ends, which is between 5 and 5:30, depending when your students leave. They usually leave around in the middle there. And you're free to do anything you want. We have the Japanese classes twice a week, and we have other cultural events going on that you can sign up for, but they are completely optional. Your evenings are your evenings. And in fact, I recommend taking 1 rest day per week, because for anyone out there who has taught, it takes a lot of energy. You got to have the switch turned on throughout the day. You got to be enthusiastic, and it's tough, and and so take a day to rest, but otherwise your evenings are for you guys. All right. So we're getting into the camp now. And if there's more questions, we'll go get them as we go. The focus of the Global English Camp is kind of threefold, but really it's much more than this. We talk about global issues. We want students to be global citizens. A lot of these students want to study abroad. And our big focus is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It's a great topic to discuss, but also it's a very popular topic in Japanese education system. So they're familiar with it, and they do a short presentation on it. The culminating event is their life mission speech. We want to know how they want to contribute to the world, just like how we ask it in your application. And application tip number 1, even if you are not sure, try to be clear and directed in your life mission response. Say, hey, I want to do this, this, and this, and this is how I'll do it, and this is why. If you aren't sure, I mean, I sure as hell was not sure. I'm still not sure, but throughout my university experience, undergrad and grad, just write, what are your options? What are you considering and why, and how you'll get there. Our team in Japan loves seeing that, clear and focused aspect because they want you to be able to mentor students to find their life missions, or at least have a few different paths. Of course, we don't expect everyone to have everything locked in. I did not. But that is their final speech, and it's amazing. I'll talk about that in a bit. And then perhaps the most important rule of our Global English Camp, as we say, is to talk a lot and have fun. This is all about having students feel comfortable speaking English and enjoying it. And there's a lot of games sprinkled in our amongst the more serious topics in our camp. And we want a lot of laughter and a lot of smiles. And inevitably that's what we get. And that's thanks to you guys and our interns that have done this program over the years. It is really, really fun, I think, every day in the classroom. So we'll go over some of the scheduled topics, and I won't spend too much time because I want to be cognizant. It's already 5:30 PST, so we've got about half an hour. So this is on our website. Take a look at it. It's our 5-day program, as you see there, 10 to 5. At 5, the day ends, but you have a short review, and then you're free to go when students finish their review sheet. You finish your review sheet, and then before 10, we ask people to try arrive around 9:30. Go to the konbini, the convenience store, grab a little breakfast and coffee, and meet with your team to discuss the day, and then make sure we're all in the classroom, a minute before 10 for our students. And yeah, you can see there's a big mix of different things, a couple presentations, lots of games, and then the last day is such a focus on the life mission. But I don't want to go too into detail right here. And we've actually worked on this curriculum since 2015, and a big part of why we make changes is because at the end of the summer we ask interns for their feedback, and that is huge in terms of how we fix the curriculum for next year. What worked, what didn't. Yeah, and then this program right here, 2.5 days. This was what we did this summer. This was the online. So we only did 2.5. An evening on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Again, hence the funny times. For example, if you're in Los Angeles like me on Friday, our time in LA, it would have been 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. So it was wild, but everyone brought the energy this summer. I'm so grateful for our team this year. And we may do these more in the future outside of the summer because it's a shorter program. Again, this may happen in the summer, depending on COVID. We're really not sure. We encourage everyone to stay updated themselves, in addition to checking our website, checking the Ministry of Education or Travel, checking the embassies, things like that. But this was our program we did this summer. It's basically a smushed version. So like I said, fun is a big aspect. We've got a lot of speaking activities and games. If you are a drama or theater major or have been involved in that, you'll recognize a lot of them. West Wind Blows, this one where someone stands in the middle, gives a prompt, and everyone gets up and runs to get a chair if the prompt applies to them. A lot of active games to keep that energy up, and a lot of these students are super nervous, because they haven't had the opportunity to speak English very much, let alone for 5 days straight. Many of them have only, talked maybe 20 minutes at a time in English. And so it is really challenging and really nerve-wracking, but that's why these games are there, to make everyone feel comfortable and build their confidence and have fun. And so it's really important to connect to the students. But you'll be surprised after students start getting comfortable and breaking out of their shell after day 1, day 2, how brilliant they are and how much they have to say and express themselves once they're comfortable. So here's some more pictures of our games. Super fun time. And like I said, some of these games are within your group. Some of them are with the entire classroom. We once had the Tokyo 2020 Olympics discussion. That will not be happening next year. But this was a presentation that they did for their very first presentation of the week, talking about how what they would do personally to help the 2020 Olympics. Really bummer because, of course, there was no audience allowed. So our students of the past years didn't get to use what they learned in this to talk to foreigners at the games. But we'll have some replacements this summer, like the optional entrepreneurship discussion. We have one about education systems, regional revitalization, social media. We've basically got these different modules students can choose from and present on. So this one was fun. This kind of gives a good idea of the vibe of English Camp. This is an entrepreneurship presentation, and yet this group made the fantastic domination switch to turn off your annoying siblings or a microwave bento box named Mike. A big emphasis to make sure students are having fun in addition to thinking critically. So that's how the presentations look. You're kind of the teacher standing there with, or the mentor standing there with the poster as the students give their speeches in front of the class. And it's really nice to see them on their first speech of the week and how they progress on their last speech of the week. For the very fast readers, you got that one. For everyone else, sorry. For sake of time, just some nice testimonials. So the United Nations is their second presentation. They pick a sustainable development goal and talk about it. Really, really cool, I think, to hear the students' different opinions and solutions to world problems. We have them focus on the world and individually what they can do to be an active citizen and help little bits at a time. Very nice. And then as coaches, as interns, you give 2 presentations. The first one is about your university. And depending on what venue you're at, and you know what, I'll talk about venues in a second. The school you're at, it might be at the bottom where our intern Jason is giving a presentation to the entire classroom, or Freddie in the right giving his presentation very casually to students in chairs. Typically, it's more on the right where we set up a university fair system and we say, oh, Matt's over here doing UCLA, if anyone wants to listen to that. And we rotate so students can learn about universities. And why we do that is very much an icebreaker, because the students then talk about their high school, but also because a lot of these students, as you might imagine, are interested in studying abroad, especially at all your universities, and they love learning about that. The second presentation you give is also on your life mission. So you will give one about what you're studying and what you want to do. And that format would also be in the same, maybe in the fair or in front of the class. And that's really inspiring for the students, especially if, students that aren't in your group see your presentation and say, oh, I want to be, a lawyer as well. And then you guys get to connect. So those are the 2 presentations you actually create and do during the class. And sometimes you'll switch off during the week. You won't do one this week because there's so many interns, but you'll do this at least 2 or 3 times throughout the program. All right. And then on the last day, the students give their life mission presentation. This is my favorite day. I mean, it is inspiring. I mean, it's everyone in your classroom giving their presentation. So it's a long day, but it is really cool to see how far they've come with their confidence in giving an English speech. And oftentimes I know interns always tell stories about how their student calls them out during the presentation, or calls out something they had said on Tuesday that inspired them. Very, very nice, very heartwarming, inspiring, all of the above. And after the life mission, we have our closing ceremony, and this is where it gets emotional. And this is where if you hadn't realized it before, you realize now how much of an impact you had. Students and teachers exchange messages and this whole fanfare we do. And you get a little gift surprise from the students. You give them message cards. It's really nice. And students often bring gifts. One of my favorites were some intern really loved Japanese sweets, like snacks from the convenience store. And the students built her a backpack out of snacks. Another one for in the classroom, you're allowed to wear your Global English Camp t-shirt that you get. And one of our interns wore it every day of the week, and their students each got him a new t-shirt because they thought he's only wearing this shirt. Just really nice, really special. We always have to kick the students out because they want to take selfies forever, but it's a beautiful last day of the program. So before we get into the subsidies, I wanted to mention real quick about the venues that I did not mention earlier. So we have, you'll see on our website, a map of our venues across Japan, all the way from Sapporo in the north, Okinawa in the south. And when you're accepted, you fill out one of the forms you fill out is where you want to be located. And we ask, which of the 4 hubs do you prefer? Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Osaka, or Kansai area, with Kyoto as well. And then we ask, how much do you want to travel? Do you want to not travel at all or as little as possible? Like you want to stick in one classroom, or do you want to travel a little bit, or do you want to travel as much as possible? Like I'd love to be in a new city every week. And a lot of people love that, and it's great. I get to see a lot of Japan. The typical experience of your 4 weeks of teaching, remember the first week of training is in Tokyo, is 2 or 3 weeks at a home base. So let's say you're in Tokyo for 2 weeks and the other 2 weeks at a different city. Let's say you're in Tokyo 2 weeks, and then 1 week you take a Shinkansen down to Shizuoka, which is a town near Mount Fuji. And the last week we fly you up to Hokkaido, up to Sapporo. Then you come back to Tokyo to fly out. So that's the typical experience. We take requests, but not everything's guaranteed. But we do really care about everyone's experience. We want to make sure everyone's happy and comfortable. And so that's how we sort everyone to their different venues. But there are tons of venues across Japan. And every experience is different. Like I said earlier, you're in a group of 15, your mini cohort, and that's where you'll mostly be with so even our smallest venue has 4 interns. That's a very small venue, and 16 students. You'll always be with other interns and either your leader or Japanese staff to help you. So I didn't mention that earlier. That's kind of how that works. Okay, I think there's going to be a lot of questions here. So let's go through it. So these subsidies for our in-person program, these are what we provided in 2019 and every year. And the very first thing is, of course, round trip airfare. So you will have your airfare paid for you from your hometown or where you go to college or university to Japan and back. We, of course, encourage everyone to fly to Tokyo because that's where we need everyone to be for the first week. But with that airfare, we do not restrict the dates. Of course, you have to arrive on time for that orientation weekend, and you will eventually have to leave because tourist visas, which you all have, are 90 days. By the way, if your nationality is from a country that requires a visa to enter Japan, don't worry. We work with everyone case by case. But most countries, for example, US, UK, Canada, and other countries don't require it. Anyway, so with this ticket, you can arrive to Japan early. You can arrive a month early and start traveling around. Of course, you'll be responsible for your own travel, but you have that ticket to choose when you want to arrive because our sponsor really encourages people to get there early, get over jet lag, and explore Japan because 5 weeks goes by really quickly, especially when you're teaching 5 days a week. So that's the airfare. And then the limitation, we encourage travel, but we really want it to be in Japan. So it's really just a round trip to Japan and back. But if you do want to do other traveling, I recommend getting a flight to Japan and then just buying your own flight from Japan to Hong Kong or something if you want to travel and make it back for the program. So you, like I said, we will buy the plane tickets minus the $500 deposit you give to the travel agency. So you, when we purchase the ticket, you send over $500 US dollars, about 350 pounds to the travel agency. And you get that back, 80% of it. There's a $100 onboarding fee. You get that back within 45 days of completing the program. And that is just as long as you complete the program and don't destroy your house or anything like that. You're going to get that back if you do our program. It's just our safety net so people don't get that free flight to Japan and then go off and explore, which you imagine wouldn't happen. But that is the airfare. Actually, you know what? Does anyone have any questions on the airfare before I get into housing? I'm going to do this section like this just in case. Okay, and if people are typing, I will catch it. But housing, so we provide lodging throughout the program. Lodging, the type of lodging you get depends where you are placed. So these are our options: shared housing, dorm rooms, homestays, apartments, hotels, guest houses. Thank you, Alicia. If you arrive early, housing's not covered, but we have with our partners, the Come On Up House, a very cheap rate if you'd like to stay in a share house when you arrive early. But housing starts at the weekend before training, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Before training, we have the orientation. Thanks. And then so otherwise housing, so shared housing is what it sounds like. You get your own room, you share the amenities with other interns. Dorm rooms, you guys are all familiar with. That is pretty rare, but just in the case that we do need to use it. Homestays are much more common in rural areas. So if you want a homestay, which is staying with a Japanese family, which I highly recommend as a fantastic experience, that's not going to happen in Tokyo or Osaka or the big cities. So, so if you'd like to do that, request that you can travel a little bit rather than being stationed in one city. Apartments and hotels actually come up as well. And it's just all venue dependent because of limited housing in Japan and what we can get. It depends where you are. If you're in Tokyo, you're probably going to be in a shared house with other interns, which is fun. You get to meet other interns, do things together, share the amenities. But if you're in a smaller city, you might get a homestay and then the family gets to treat you to, dinners and maybe do your laundry, which happens more than often, show you all the cool spots in their town. And they really love it, of course, because they're requesting to do homestays. So there's a lot of different experience depending on where you are, but it is all covered. And Sam, you do get to request if you want to be in it. There's a request specifically for being in a rural area or a specific request. Do you really want a homestay? And so if you say yes to the homestay, we'll send you, we'll say, here's where you're placed, that you're getting your homestay here. Is that okay? And yeah, that's how it worked. Personally, I recommend if you guys are accepted to be, of course, open-minded and flexible, but yeah, request a variety of experience, get a little bit in a bigger city, a home base, and a little bit outside, experience different parts of Japan. And then food subsidy transportation. So every week, we go over this in training, every week we give you guys your subsidies for food. In 2019, it was 2,300 yen. It's like $22 per day. And you utilize that as you want. The misconception I always tell people is that Japan's not as expensive as you think for food. You can get the best bowl of ramen you've had in your life, for those of you who like ramen, for $5, 500 yen. Convenience stores, different than what we have in the States at least, have fantastic food and very affordable. And you can find healthy, affordable food too. So you can use that money how you please. And then transportation, we give it, so from your house to school and back, you get that covered. And then you also get anything covered when you're going to another school. Like if you are teaching first week in Tokyo and second in Okinawa, you obviously got to take a plane flight. We'll set that up for you, or a Shinkansen to Osaka, etc. And all that travel to new venues would happen on Sunday. All right, this is the last slide for what's included, then I'll take some more questions. I should have done a nice reveal for the cultural experience of a lifetime, but you also get, of course, we mentioned the Japanese language classes covered. They're optional. We have signups. That's why we ask you on the application about your skill level, so we can prepare for teachers. And then we have a cultural activity, at least one per week, that is sponsored by the program, and you get, in 2019, we gave everyone 2 to choose from, so you can choose, hey, I want to go to Team Lab, this really cool interactive museum. No, I want to go on a boat to an island snorkeling trip, or we have these different things throughout the program that are covered. And then we also have, like I mentioned before, tons of unofficial stuff with staff and leaders that want to do stuff every day. Say, hey, let's go to my favorite restaurant. Hey, let's go check out this garden, etc. And then you get health insurance. It's I won't go into it too much, but it covers a lot. If you have a serious emergency, unlike if you live in the States and don't have the best insurance like me, you will hesitate to call an ambulance. In Japan, if you are feeling bad in our program, your insurance is going to cover that. Call that ambulance, get to the hot, make sure you're safe. And we go over all this in training as well, the specifics of our health insurance. All right, any questions on what's covered? Oh, Matt, great question. Do you have no rudimentary Japanese to take part in homestay? No. The homestay families don't expect anyone to know Japanese. So when they sign up, they come prepared with that knowledge. So the communication might not be perfect in English, but it'll still be a wonderful experience, I think. So no, do not have to at all. Most people don't. And Michelle, are the optional field trips free? Yes. So in 2019 we allotted 2 free ones, and then the other ones you had to pay. So you get 2, and then you also have the retreat and the orientation free, and then there's a goodbye dinner as well. So there's kind of things every week. Native level English skills. So that's a great question, Tan. What it means is very subjective. If you have scores like IELTS and stuff like that, you want to supply us on your application, please do. But we take it into account when we interview you. We interview and say, are we having a native level conversation? Yes, then that's totally fine. So I know it's a vague answer, but we've had plenty of non-native speakers in our program that are at that native level. Jocelyn, historically, okay, so the acceptance rates, I don't want to scare you guys, but it usually is somewhere between 10 to 15%. And the reason is because we have typically close to 2,000 applications per year. So if there's only 200 interns, it's pretty low. But a ton of people apply at the very last day of the deadline. In fact, up until this year, we had a second phase in January to March where you could still apply. But we are cutting that out this year because it's too disappointing for students who apply so late. We want to be cognizant that when you apply, you want to hope that there's positions. And so if you apply, in the next month, so 2 weeks away from that end of the year deadline, you technically will have a better chance, because we're going to be reviewing applications on a rolling basis and start interviewing near the end of the year, beginning of next year. And because we read them in chunks, and because there are so many applications on the last day, we'll start accepting people. And if we interview you, you're great, we're going to put you on to the next round. So we might run out of space. So highly recommend applying early. That's probably, if you are interested in this program, the number one piece of advice on the application. Nicholas, the TEFL, does it increase the odds of acceptance? A little bit, to be honest. The main thing we focus on is the content of the application. And then once you're interviewed, the content of the interview. But the TEFL does give us a little bit of encouragement. However, again, I'll say this, because I'm not trying to sell our TEFL here or anything. 80 to 85 to even 90% of our interns do not have a TEFL. So don't worry too much, but if you are interested in teaching and you do like the idea of teaching, it's a great thing to have. Thanks for that question. Emily, great question about the tattoos and piercings. It kind of depends venue to venue, to be honest, but we'll make you aware. However, the very simple thing is to, if possible, cover up tattoos. because there's a little bit of a taboo in Japan with tattoos. So we ask people, you know, if you have them on the arms, to wear a long sleeve, things like that. And piercing, yeah, it's kind of a case-by-case basis with our Japanese sponsors, but if possible, you may, you know, one venue may not allow it. And unfortunately, that's how it is. But I wouldn't worry about that now, as it won't be a block to being accepted. Jocelyn, what are interviews like? Well, you'll be talking with me, and I will be asking questions about why you want to do this program. I will be asking, and I'll give everyone a hint here. If I ask that question, please talk about the students. We are looking for people who care most about the students. Yes, you care about Japan and getting a cultural exchange experience, but mentoring students is our #1 goal. So remember that. So yep, Jocelyn, there'll be about 20-25 minutes. We'll ask you a series of questions, some situationals as well, like what would you do in class in this situation or in Japan. And then there's a second interview with our team in Japan if you pass our interview. And that one, they will ask about your life mission. They will also ask you situationals. And while they are more formal than me and my team, they're by no means a strict interview as well. So just the cliche of be yourself applies definitely. All right, let's get going here and prepare some questions. Sorry for running late. I was probably rambling, but great questions. Thank you guys so much. So these are some pictures from our cultural events. We do a lot of cooking nights. We love food on this program, and why not? Japanese food's amazing. I better stop before I start talking about it. There's some pictures from Hakone on the right, and the onsen in the bottom middle, a Japanese hot spring. And then we have our language classes, and opportunity to meet. We have every year an exchange with the University of Tokyo. That's really fun. So you can meet fellow Japanese university students. We have lots of unofficial events as well. And yeah, these are some pictures from retreats and our orientation. Super fun stuff. I mean, it's really all about the fulfillment of impacting students, but right behind it is the memories you'll make with your fellow interns. And it's so cool to see our interns just connect all around the world and stay at each other's apartments and meet up for events. You make a special bond with people you do the program with for sure. All right. I've said it enough. It's very unforgettable. These are some classroom pictures we take at the end of the week. Let's see, that's in Osaka, a bigger classroom. We got, that is, well, it says it's in Okinawa. That's a smaller venue. As you can see, there's only a handful of teachers there. And I think both experiences are great, the big and small classrooms. And yeah, so here's our original team. And we grew quite a bit over the years. That was only actually part of our 2017 team, 2018 team, and our 2 cohorts in 2019 when we switched to the 2 cohort system. And of course, 2020 was all online, and it's impossible to get a picture of all 150 of us. But we also have returning interns. I talked about the leaders that come back and make this program really, really special. What it comes down to is we have our staff come on out, we have our partners come on up, and we have Toshin, the schools we work with, the Japanese staff. But in the end, and you work with all of them, and it's really great. But in the end, it's the interns running the classrooms. It's the interns and the returning interns, the leaders running it, and what make this program special, the true heart and soul. And so we love people coming back to do the program again. So what difference do you want to make in students' lives? Of course, think about it and apply right now. And my staff member put this picture of me, and I don't know why it's relevant for this slide, but he said it was. And maybe it's just me looking, hey, if you want to apply, apply earlier rather than later, and email us as always with questions. I'll take some final questions now. Sorry I'm right on time, but I'll definitely stick around for 5 or 10 minutes. Oh, and last thing, I'll come back to the slide. Oh, I didn't put it there. We're going to have opportunities come in spring. Like I said, there's a program in Japan. There's other countries in the works for different camps. And other teaching opportunities, some that do require a TEFL. Again, this one doesn't, but others that do require a TEFL for teaching. paid positions with us. Lots of opportunities coming up. And so this info session was about Global English Camp, but we really do have many more things in the works now, both online and in person. And so on our newsletter, we're going to be spelling those out. And it doesn't mean you have to participate in one or another. They'll be throughout the year. So we've got a lot of different cool stuff coming up, and we want to tell that to you guys in the internship, because we're not, I mean, in the info session, because we're not really advertising that otherwise. So we may, if you apply for this English Camp position, that puts you in our pool of all our programs, which is exciting. And so we'll email you about those programs. If you're interested, let us know when we send it out. If not, no worries. These are a bunch of different smaller programs we're running at the same time. All right. So let's see any final questions. Thank you guys for listening to me. I'm very proud of doing the exact hour, although I will stay here for 5-10 minutes with questions. But thank you guys again so much. I really look forward to having or seeing some of your hopefully all of your applications, and some of you, or maybe all of you, if you apply early in Japan next summer, knock on wood, as we have to do. But if it's online or in person, it's going to be great, and I look forward to meeting you guys. For now, I'll just accept the mutes and the blank screens with your names, but I can still say very nice to meet you all. Anyways, I'll stick around for some questions, and thanks again.